Hey everyone, I'm Haley. This is Bitter Kitten Crafts, and today I want to share with you everything I made in February. I got a lot of stuff done this month. I made a bunch of things, so I'm really excited to show them all to you, and I want to start with my FOs, with my smallest ones first. So I got really into knitting little guys this month, and these are the Little Kindness Monster by Borello Carroll, and I made 3, and I'm really happy with each of them. They're all unique, you know, and 2 of them I'm keeping, but this one's gonna be a gift. So each of these little guys, they have like their own kind of quirks because obviously they're hand knitted, but this is the first one I made. So their ears are garter stitch, and then you knit the hat and the hat comes off, and then you, and you knit his body and his limbs flat, and the ears obviously flat, and then you kind of seam him together, and it's really easy. Knitting flat is a huge appeal to me because I really struggle with tiny circumference knitting, and so even their little hat is knit flat, and it has like little ear holes, which is so cute. And then you just kind of seam everything up and stuff him. So mine are all filled with yarn scraps, and there's nothing really too crazy about it. This one I knit during the Super Bowl, so I knit the entire little guy during the Super Bowl, so it's not a very long time commitment of a project, and it's kind of cool because you can see I knitted them on different needle sizes, and this guy's smaller, right, than this guy. And I don't know, I just got obsessed with knitting them. So yeah, so you knit the body flat, and then you can see he has like shaping. You can kind of see the shaping there. And then you knit his little arms and legs flat too, and then you just stitch him up. And it took me like probably 3-ish hours to knit a full little guy. I'm gonna put his hat back on so he's not cold. And I just got obsessed. So I'm definitely planning to knit more. The pattern is free, and there's just so many good things I could say about it. It was really easy to follow. There are instructions for knitting in the round and flat. And look how stinking cute he is. I just used safety eyes for all 3 of them. I go to this place, the Upcycle Creative Reuse Center in Virginia, a lot, and they had safety eyes there, so I just took some home. And I think they're so cute. This one's made of cashmere scraps, so he's like a little more speckly and fun than some of the other ones, but I don't know, I opted out of mouths. I felt like no mouth was the right choice because I didn't want to mess up, for one, and then I also felt like maybe, they would convey more emotion if they didn't have mouths that were smiling, and I think kind of that's true, you know. So in the pattern, there's also the option to stitch a little heart onto them because they are kindness monsters, but I decided against that. I just kind of like them as they are. So if you are somebody in my real life, perhaps expect a Christmas gift of a little guy. I'm obsessed with them. So this one is for one of my in-laws, and she helped us move, and she loves little guys like this, so I wanted to say thank you to her and send her this one. And only one of them has a name. This one is named Pinky, but the others don't have names. So those are my first FO. I'm kind of lumping them together. I did make separate projects for them on Ravelry just so that I could list the yarn, but I'm really happy and proud of them. And I want to knit a couple more. So I want to try to knit one. These are all on size 4 needles. And I want to try to knit one, I think this one might be size 3, but I want to try to knit one on like size 2 or 1 needles and hold like single strand of fingering weight with like size 1 needles, and see if I can make like a teeny tiny little guy. And then I also want to try maybe bulky weight or worsted weight scraps held double and make a chunky guy. Yeah, imagine if I did size 7 needles. I think it'd be really awesome because this one's size 3 maybe, and this one's size 5. So then imagine like if I went up 1 more, then he'd be even bigger, and I think that'd be just so cute. I love them. I know like little guys are not for everybody, so let's move on to sweaters. I did finish 2 sweaters this month. One of them I started in January, and one of them I started in January 2024. So let's start with the one that I've been working on most actively this whole time, which is the Stamford Sweater. So this one I cast on in January of 2025. And if you've been watching my channel, you've been watching me sort of slowly chip away at this one. This is the Stamford Sweater by the Knit Purl Girl. And her pattern is for like a deep V Henley, like 6 buttons deep, like to almost my belly button. And I was knitting it, and I ended up knitting the Henley basically too deep for me, where I thought that I wanted the sweater to be quite significantly longer. And then I tried it on and it looked really unflattering. So I ended up ripping back. If you watch my last video where I showed this sweater, I ripped back, I think like 4 stripes on the body, maybe 5. So, you know, a significant amount of inches. I had already knit all the bottom ribbing and I ripped back the whole body, and then I just kept it separate and kept knitting flat as opposed to joining in the round. And this ended up with the most beautiful cardigan, honestly. These colors are kind of crazy. I got some positive comments and also some negative comments on the colors, and I really like them, honestly. I was going for kind of like a rugby stripe situation, and I don't know the names of a lot of these colors because they are scraps, but I do know that this main blue that I use for all the edging and seaming is, or not seaming, I didn't have to seam, but it is Berroco Vintage, and I'll have to put the colorway, I don't know what it is, but a lot of this yarn, actually this blue is the same blue that I used for this guy. So a lot of this yarn has just kind of been rattling around in my house for like some time, and I didn't have a purpose for it, but I was pulling out all of my worsted weight scraps because I'm getting kind of tired of knitting fingering weight sweaters. And this is just the color palette that was available to me in my stash. I'm really happy that I ended up ripping back and not committing to the Henley because I feel like it's just a much cuter garment for like me personally in my wear this way. But I know that I will plan to knit the Henley version of this pattern in the future for sure. I think it'd be so cute to knit a red one or a like dark purple one. I think that'd be really, really flattering and awesome. I've been really looking more towards what colors work with like my skin tone and my kind of wardrobe palette much more rather than being drawn to just pretty things, because I'm definitely guilty of buying pretty yarn that makes me look diseased or washed out, and I'll show some of that like later on. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and stick to colors that are more like flattering on my skin tone and just more suited to my wardrobe rather than just the most beautiful colors. And I've been saving the most beautiful colors for my crochet, which I'll get to in a second. So before we go ahead to whips, which is my crochet, let's go ahead and talk about the second sweater that I finished this month. Oh, I forgot about the buttons. So this sweater, obviously, it's a cardigan, so it needs buttons. I did make the buttonholes. I am like notorious for not making buttonholes on cardigans because I usually wear them open, but I actually did it and I have buttons picked out. So recently I helped an older woman in my building move out, and she was a sewer. And she gave me a lot of really cool stuff from her stash that she just couldn't hold on to anymore. And so she gave me also these buttons, which are, I think, oh, I have some other ones too. But these buttons are perfect, I think, for this sweater. They're big and cutesy, and let's see if I can show it on the, so they go perfectly, I think, with my color scheme. I'm really, really happy with them, but they're also nothing special, which is kind of nice. I'm really looking for this sweater to be like an everyday wear sweater. You know, maybe not every single day because every time I wear it, people will remember it because the colors are so vibrant, but it's really not something I'm going to be precious with, unlike some of my other sweaters where I dread wearing them just in case I spill coffee on them or something. This sweater is not going to be like that at all. She's definitely an everyday wear sweater. Nothing special. The only negative comment I would make about this sweater is that, I don't know if you can see it now, the yarn did bleed a little bit. So this yarn is like hand-dyed alpaca, and it kind of bled onto my yellow, so you can kind of see like some of the stripes of yellow are more bright, and some of them, oh, the cats are fighting. Oh my. So yeah, so you can kind of see that some of the stripes of yellow are like more bright than the other ones. And I think I'm just gonna take it as like a design feature and not a bug. But yeah, other than that, I will be knitting this sweater again, like I mentioned, in like a red or like a rusty orange that I will choose to do the Henley version. But I'm really happy with how this cardigan version turned out. So my first sweater is like, she's been blocked, I wove in the ends, like all that's left for the finishing is just sewing on the buttons. But my second sweater, that's absolutely not the case. And I just finished this last night while we were watching The White Lotus, like kind of late at night. So she's not blocked, she's not steamed, no woven in ends, nothing. She's raw, but I'm still really excited to have finished it, and I want to show you. This is the Ankers cardigan by Petite Knit, and I'm not much of one to knit petite knit patterns. They don't fit me that well. This is a 2XL, and it's only a 48-inch bust, which is 0 inches of positive ease for me. Oh, my cat, sorry. So it's 0 inches of positive ease for me at 48 inches. The sleeves do have some positive ease though, but this is the second biggest size in the pattern, and I'm not the second biggest person to exist. So I'm a little frustrated with that aspect of it, but I was gifted this pattern and it was already in my library, and I had sat on this yarn for a long time to find a pattern for it because it's sport weight, and I knew that I wanted sort of a basic colored cardigan because this is, as things go for my knitting, this is a pretty neutral color. I know some people would not consider red speckles neutral, but for me, I mean, you just saw my blue and yellow stripes. This is a very neutral color palette for me. So I wanted something stapley basic, and I settled on this pattern because it was already in my library and I really liked the textured yoke. Other than that, the pattern, it was an easy knit. You know, a lot of people like Petite Knit because she's just reliable, easy patterns to knit, and I would agree with that. I don't agree with the way the sleeves decrease though. I will say that I had to do a quick decrease at the cuff, and even then it's like still a little looser than I would like, but that's okay. I really like this yarn. Knitting with it was wonderful. This is Frabjous Fibers Mad Hatter Sport base in the colorway Destitchnation New England, which is like a whole mouthful, but I remembered it. And it is just like a sport merino, 100% superwash merino base that I've had in my stash rattling around for some time. The theme of this year is using up old stash, getting rid of old whips, whether that means frogging them or like this one, finishing them. And so far we're like right on track. I'm really happy. But that being said, I wouldn't go ahead and choose another petite knit pattern again because I really don't feel comfortable with being the second largest size. I mean, this is not a big garment, to be honest, at all. So that's neither here nor there. I did pick out buttons for this one as well, and these are just buttons that I got at the craft store. I think they're from Joann, but like a long time ago before Joann was closing. Probably when I started this sweater I bought these, and they're just like little plastic pearlescent buttons. They're not real mother of pearl, but I was looking for a button that was big enough that, you know how sometimes when you button a sweater it has like that puckering kind of spiderwebby effect? I was looking for a button that was substantial enough that I would alleviate that, but not so big that it would detract from the color of the sweater. And I think that this is a good choice. One feature of this pattern I do actually really like is the double knit button band. You don't have to go back and pick up stitches. You just have the button band finished when you finish the cardigan. So that I love because picking things up sometimes is a place where I end up stalling in a project. And I'll put some pictures in, but I think you can see like the color of this yarn is really pretty. The speckles aren't super even. You can see this sleeve has like way fewer pink speckles than the body, but the blue speckling is beautiful. And like I said, for me, this is an extremely neutral palette. Oh, this is my little Vogue knitting stitch marker from 2023, which I got to go to Vogue that year. Last year I didn't get to go. This year I didn't get to go. So maybe next year I'll get to go. But let me go ahead and take this off because my project's finished. I think it was marking the end of the raglan increases or something. But this one, in the next episode, I probably won't show it, but it will be blocked and the ends will be woven in. I'm not one to dilly-dally on that. I know that's something that hangs people up a lot, but I'm definitely more one to dilly-dally at starting a second sleeve because I still have one more sweater that has one more sleeve that I need to finish. But I'm not going to let that hinder me from starting a new sweater for myself. Let's move on to whips. I don't have that many right now, partially because I just finished 2 sweaters this month, and partially because I'm trying to actively stop myself from casting new things on so that I can actually make some progress on my projects. My big, huge whip that I have going on right now, you may have just watched the video I put out about it, but I wanted to show off my squares for the month. These are my March squares for my granny square blanket. So right now I have made, in the month of March, I made 32 squares, which puts me at 123 out of 144 squares, which feels amazing. I'm so close to being done. These are the most recent ones I finished, these neon-y ones, and I just love the way the neon colors look. Oh, I'm so happy to be almost done with this. I cast it on in September and it's already almost, now it's March 1st today, so it's definitely taking up a lot of time. You know, I didn't really realize till I sat down to pull this together, this video, that like really a lot of my crafting time went into making all these squares, which is awesome and great. But I feel like I could have probably knitted an entire another project had I not made 30 of these, or at least made more progress on the next sweater that I'll show in a second. But crocheting granny squares is one of my greatest joys. I love them. I'm a nanny, so every time I'm working and my kids are doing karate or whatever they're doing, I'm crocheting. Every time we're watching White Lotus or watching something on YouTube, I'm crocheting. And I'm just really happy to have made so much progress on this project this month. I averaged more than 1 square a day because it's only 28 days in February. So you know, this took up a significant chunk of my crafting time, and it doesn't really look like that much, but then when you spread them out on the floor, which I did do like a week ago, it feels like a lot more work that I did than what it looks like in this little stack. And look how pretty some of these are. I mean, some of these are gorgeous. This is all either worsted weight acrylic or sock yarn, self-striping sock yarn held double. So it's all machine washable yarns, and a lot of them are, you know, I'm getting to the point where I've used up most of my scraps. So a lot of these colors are kind of just random skeins of yarn I had in my house. But my color scheme was pink. So I think you can kind of tell. All these squares have either like pink, purple, yellow, or orange in them, warm tones. And then if you watched my other video, you saw I have like a whole nother duffel bag, suitcase, drawstring bag of yarns that were too cool colored, too cool toned to put into this blanket. And that'll be a whole nother blanket project that I'll begin. So no shortage of granny square content on this channel, but that's all I have to say about them for now. I'm also working on one sweater. This is, oh, I'm losing stitches. This is the Flax DK weight version by Tin Can Knits. This is probably one of the most staple free patterns on Ravelry that exists. And I'm knitting it in Berroco Vintage DK in the colorway Cerulean. So this is a gift for my husband. I've never knitted him a sweater, but I wanted to wait till we were married. We got married in November, and then I cast this on like 2 weeks ago in February, so he's been a patient man. This is knit on size 5 needles, and it's going a little slow, to be perfectly honest, partially because I just couldn't stop granny squaring, but I'm making good progress in the yoke. I did end up doing the garter stitch welts because I think they're nice and they add a little variation. One comment I will make about this, I got a comment on one of my other videos about this too. This is the size of the neckline, and so in the pattern it suggests that you cast on the neck. If you are making like a larger size, which this is the 3X size, if you're making a larger size, it suggests that you cast on at the neck increase and then pick up for the collar later, which I'm definitely planning on picking up. I mean, significantly fewer stitches for the collar. I think, you know, my husband's a tall guy, but I think that this would just fall off my shoulders if I left it like this for myself. So if you have any tips on what to do for that, please comment below. I don't know, like I might pick up like 1 out of every 2 stitches or something, like significantly fewer, because this is crazy. I mean, this is like a boat neck, you know, one of those off the shoulder sweaters for me. I really like knitting with this yarn. This is Berrocco Vintage yarn, and this is the DK weight version, which I've never used before. But I had used the worsted weight version, which is basically the same thing, for 2 sweaters now, and also additionally for the ribbing and the collar and cuffs and stuff of the blue and yellow sweater I just showed. I really like it. It's a blend of acrylic, wool, and nylon, and it's really soft. It's machine washable, and it doesn't have that squeak that a lot of acrylic yarns have, that like my blanket squares have been squeaking, but this yarn doesn't. It feels a lot more wool leaning than acrylic leaning, which I love. I love that for gift knits, it's been a really reliable yarn for me because just in case, you never know, you know, when you're letting other people care for knits. You just never know what'll happen. So I think that this was the right choice for my husband's sweater. I'm only about halfway-ish through the yoke, like maybe a little less than halfway, and then I have to do the short rows and then I can split for sleeves. So this is definitely not, I'm like sort of disappointed because it's March and the likelihood of me finishing this project before the weather gets really hot here is sort of low, but I'm gonna try. It's hard not to get distracted with other things like granny squares, but what can you do, you know? That being said, I do have plans to cast on a project for myself, and I want to knit the Aria shawl by Amba O'Brien. So this is a pattern that comes with a DK weight and a fingering weight version, and I've been kind of oscillating back and forth between which one I should cast on. I have these two yarns, and I have a second skein of this dark one as well. These are yarns from my bachelorette party. We went to Pet Alpacas in like rural Virginia. So it's from Ever After Alpaca Farm. I'll link them below. You should definitely go if you live anywhere close to here at all. It was so fun. I want to go back when the weather's a little warmer. I had such a wonderful time, and the alpacas were really sweet, and these are from some of the alpaca friends I made. And I'm hoping to knit, so the pattern that I picked, it's like a slip stitch mosaic knitting shawl pattern that it's kind of like, I'll put a photo, but I don't know if I should choose the DK weight version or the fingering weight version because I have 300 grams of yarn, so I could knit the DK weight version, but I only have enough white to knit the fingering weight, but I don't really want to have extra. So I was thinking I might just cast on the halfway between the two and kind of smoosh them together and like see what happens. I do feel like I could get away with knitting this yarn on a bigger needle, even though it's pretty thin, because it's 100% alpaca, and I anticipate that it will bloom a lot, pretty significantly. It's, you know, locally milled, so it's not been heavily processed, and I do believe that it has some like machine oil left in it still, that when I wash it and block it, it will bloom stunningly. The drape is gorgeous, but definitely check out this alpaca farm. It smells very sheepy, which I love. I'm really excited to start this and use this yarn and have a wearable memento of my wedding time, and it'll just be really nice to knit with 100% alpaca, which is a luxury. So aside from knitting more little guys and working on my flax and starting this shawl, my other goal for March is to finish 100% of my granny squares. So I actually only have 21 left, which is less than one a day. So I truly anticipate that I can get there, like no problem. I'm running a little low on yarn that fits my color palette, so I'm gonna have to steal a little bit of yarn for my blue blanket, but I think that'll be okay, to be honest. Maybe I'll just add some purples into this blanket and it'll match, right? It's fine. So thanks so much for watching. That was kind of like a frazzled everything I knit in February. I'm really happy to be sharing my makes here with you, and I hope that you enjoyed. Please consider subscribing if you like my channel. Thanks so much.